David trembled after Uzzah's death because of God's holiness and purity and righteousness demands a disciplined vessel to understand his sovereignty over foolishness. David said, God means business. He can't take his power, his love, his grace, and his mercy for granted. David understood this. We can't treat it carelessly for one more second. David said, stop everything. The celebration was over because he couldn't bear to be careless for one more second. So 3 months go by from the time of Uzzah's death. David halts the celebration. 3 months will go by until David attempts to do it again. In the midst of that 3 months, David is winning battles. He sought the Lord with great discipline in the midst of his enemies attacking him. You can read this when you go home in 1 Chronicles 14. It records it. David did what God commanded him, and therefore his enemies were struck down. So then in 1 Chronicles chapter 14, verse 17, it says that this humbling and surrendering to God, not allowing his anger to turn to pride, led to David's fame spreading to all of the lands. And because of David's surrender and wanting God to get all of the glory, verse 17 in 1 Chronicles chapter 14 says that the Lord caused all of the nations to fear David. Why would God do this for David? Because it wasn't about David. It was about a willing vessel who trusted God in his success so that God could then get all the glory. Do you understand what's at stake? If you succeed, God gets the glory. So what does it take to succeed? For God to get the glory, it means that in your obedience, it has to be perfect. Because the world is watching. You're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. This is your testimony. David sought God before he went to battle. Everything that God instructed, he did it down to perfection. And because of that, God caused every nation to fear David because they only feared David because of the God David served. David's life pointed to God. David's fear of the Lord led him to listen to God in every single detail that left a trail of breadcrumbs that ended right at God's throne for the world to see. When you allow God to mature you, he can trust your discipline and your consecration so much that others will fear you because they fear the God within you. I'm not talking about popularity and wanting to people please and do whatever you can to fit in. I'm talking about you housing the presence of God in such a way that even if people hate you, they will tremble at the God that you serve or learn in time to do it.